Main thing is that I wanted the hood to be absolutely ginormous. I also had to do surgery on the sleeve because he's just like curling around every surface. If I fold, can you see? We're gonna see in 10 minutes if it's itchy or not. Hi, my name is Maya and welcome to episode 62 of my knitting podcast, where I share all my thoughts, process and other random stuff about all things fiber related, but mostly knitting. Today is the 25th of September 2025 and I'm coming to you from the French-speaking part of Switzerland, where I live with my gecko. Today I have a ton of stuff to share, as usual. I have 2 finished objects, 2.5 depending on how you count, and I have 2 works in progress, 2.5 depending on how you count. And I do have some acquisitions, but I'm not gonna show them because the more I think about it and the more I realize, or the more I think rather, that there is no point in showing yarn if I'm not working with it. So I'm just gonna wait until I cast on the yarn I just received to show it to you, because there's no point in showing it before, I think. Anyway, let's get started with what I'm wearing, which is my Camisole number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which I finished somewhere in the spring of this year. And it's knit using Explore Knits and Fibers earthy sock base, so the non-superwash merino base in fingering weight, in the colorway Heirloom, which is a tomato red, a gorgeous, very bright tomato red. I think it's a little bit blown out, but we're gonna have to deal with it today. And I'm also sorry about the lighting situation. The sun is shining super bright on the floor right in front of me, which is then shining at me, so I am lit up from the bottom, which I guess it's a little bit weird, but it is how it is. So I need this one in size 2 for the back, 1 for the front, and I had to do massive adjustments to the rows because my row gauge was completely off. I think it was something absolutely wild, like the suggested row gauge was probably like 30 rows, I don't know, I'm just making up numbers, and my row gauge was 40 rows, which is huge, so I had to knit a lot more rows to get to the correct length, and the patterns give you a number of rows and not tells you like knit until this measures X length. So I had to do a lot of math. But I managed and I'm pretty happy about the fit. I'm super happy about the fit. I also did some modifications to add some length to the back, and I added some body shaping on the side. So I did decreases here, I knit straight for a bit, and then I did increases. And on the bottom, if I take this out, I replaced the folded over hem with a ribbing, which I usually never do, or rather, usually when there's a ribbing at the bottom of garment, I will swap it out for folded over hem. So you might ask, why did I do the opposite this time? Well, because I plan to to wear this one tucked in, and I don't want the extra bulk of a folded over hem if I'm tucking it inside, because this is pretty bulky. I have now realized when I wear a layer on top of that, you can totally see the bump of the bulkiness of the fabric here, which is not really flattering because it happens exactly at the point where you don't necessarily want to have a bump. So yeah, this is the only thing I would say about this pattern, but yeah, it's just maybe the yarn I used is a bit too tight and the gauge is a bit too tight, because you're supposed to use a light fingering weight, like the Knitting for Olive things that are 250 meters per 50 grams, and this is 400 meters per 100 grams, so 200 meters per 50 grams. So it's a little bit thicker, so I had to go down a few needle sizes to get gauge, and I knit the edges here on 1.75 millimeters, so they are very dense, which is good because now it's super sturdy and this is gonna last for a very long time, but then it's super bulky. Whatever, I don't mind, it's not a problem, it's just there. Now, for today, my first finished object is huge, and I'm just so happy it's finally done because it took so long. Like, I don't think it's been a while since I took so long of uninterrupted knitting on something, and yeah, whatever, it took ages. So this is my Shady Hoodie. And I haven't had the time to wet block it because I finished it just before I started filming. I was still seaming stuff up and weaving in the ends before I pressed record. So this is what it's looking like. It's just a giant piece of fabric for now, but I'm gonna put it on and you should be able to see. So as you can tell, there's a super huge hood. And if I show you the other side, I have pockets here. And the edges are in seed stitch. Can you tell? Yes, seed stitch, which I'm super happy about. It's different from ribbing and it's so cute and it just gives it a little bit more, a little thing extra. And yeah, let me try it on for you so that you can see. The yarn I used is Nightshades by Harrisville Designs in the colorway Fever Dreams. And I used exactly 5 skeins because I bought 6, if I'm not mistaken. And the 6th one is here. And I didn't had to break into it because I have this much left of the 5th skein. And I'm so pleased. I mean, I'm not pleased that I have this much leftovers, but I'm so pleased to have one yarn chicken, even if it wasn't yarn chicken because I still had yarn. But yeah, that's a little yarn chicken win for me. The star of the show of this design that I wasn't able to show you before is this detail here, this thing that goes all the way to the bottom, because you have to do this at the very end once you're done with the button band. So I finished the button band, which looks a little bit weird, but wait until I explain. And it's made with double knitting, and I don't have the buttons yet, that's why I still have the markers here to place the buttons. But yeah, once it's closed, it's supposed to fit like this, so you have one width here in the middle, and then you have those guys, the flappy details, on the sides, and it closes up until the top here. And you have kind of a, I'm trying to not hit the mic, so I have it a little bit lower than usual, but it should be a little bit higher. So yeah, it closes up until up here, and it's super obvious that it's square because I have something very contrasting below. But if you have like a black t-shirt or something a little bit less bright, it's gonna be just fine. It's not gonna look as weird as this. Also because, as I said, I don't want to hit the mic, so I have it a little bit lower than usual, but it should be a bit more like this. Yeah, so when you when you don't button it until the top, it's probably gonna be something like this. Whatever, you do what you want with this detail, but the main thing is that I wanted the hood to be absolutely ginormous. Because I wanted to be able to fit headphones and a big bun under the hood. So I don't have a big bun right now, but I can grab my headphones, and if I put them on, and then I put the hood. It's fitting great. It's not fitting like this, I mean, which is usually what happens when you have headphones and then you don't have enough fabric in the hood to cover your head. But here, I do, and I'm so pleased. This is changing my life. The fact that you can have your forehead covered while having headphones, it's just, oh! And yeah, if I had a hood, I definitely would have the room. I mean, I can do a little bun to show you. There, so big bun, headphones, hood. Yes, it fits, it's big enough. And if I'm on the side, I think I look a little bit dumb because I have this alien head shape going on, but whatever. I still have a hood that's big enough to cover everything, and I can close the thing, and then I have this detail that I love, and this hem of the hood is flowing into the body until the very bottom, and that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to achieve. Oh, it's this thing here. That's what I wanted. I'm so happy. I'm so pleased it's working. It's looking awesome. Sorry, I'm super excited. And then you have the pocket here. So it's very practical. It's very easy to wear. You can have it in any situation. And yeah, it's just great. I do agree that it looks a bit odd when it's open and you have this happening. But when you block it, you can definitely fold it down like this. And then it's just going to stay in this position. And then it's going to look a lot better when it's open. But I haven't wet blocked it, as I said, so yeah. And if you remembered, I did shorten the sleeves, and I think I shortened it a little bit too much. I know I'm gonna get a bit more length with blocking, but I don't think I'm gonna get enough. So there is a world in where I'm gonna have to lengthen the sleeves again after having shortened them, but it's okay. Whatever, it's not gonna take too long, I hope. So what did I wanted to mention about this? Last time I said I would give a mid-project block to be sure about the length, and I ended up not, because when I saw myself back while I was editing the episode, I was like, the length is perfect. It's not gonna be too long, it's not too short, it's just perfect, so I didn't do a mid-project block. So yeah, I'm just happy. This is what I wanted. I didn't want it to be too long, and I didn't want it to be cropped. And once I block it, it's gonna grow like this, which is just the perfect casual length for something like this. So yeah, length was perfectly okay. And I also wanted to mention the hood construction. So what I did is this type of hood where you have a rectangular piece here in the middle. But usually with this construction, you make them top down because you knit the rectangle here. And then you leave the stitches on hold on the back, and then you pick up on each side, and then you start knitting like this. But since this is bottom up, because you pick up stitches here on the sides, and then you knit up, you do increases on the back here that you can see until it's wide enough. And then you do some decreases here, but you still knit like this. But if you want to have the stitches here on the sides that come inside the rectangle in the middle, you need to either bind off here, knit this piece alone and then seam the edges, or do what I did, which is you do rapid decreases here, and you only knit the middle part, and every time you get to an end, you decrease one stitch here. And when you start the row, you decrease a stitch, and when you end the row, you decrease a stitch. When you start the row, you decrease a stitch. But not always, because when you pick up stitches in rows, like if you had knit this and you picked up like this, you would pick up 2 out of 3 stitches, usually. So when you do this manipulation where you decrease, you need to decrease only 2 out of 3 rows, which it's not difficult, you just need to think about it, but everything is written out. But I'm just pretty pleased about this thing, that I managed to find a solution to do this bottom up instead of having to knit it top down and then seam it. The other solution would have been to do the hood with short rows, but I just think this type of hood with this thing in the middle just fits better and looks better, and I just really wanted to have this detail. So yeah, you have to go through this. I have to admit it's a little bit annoying to do, but it doesn't take too long because there's not a lot of knitting here in the middle. And if you really don't want to do it, you can just bind off the sides and seam them together. It's fine as well. Yeah, so pretty happy about this hood construction. And there is also an option for a smaller hood. If you don't want to have the gigantic one, you can do a normal sized hood, because not everyone has this type of issues going on. However, a lot of people in the comments mentioned that they were super happy to finally have a hoodie thing that would be big enough, because a lot of people have this issue actually. I wasn't expecting to be the only one with it, but I didn't think it would be so many people. So I'm happy for you that you're going to have a solution for your big bun and headphones issues as I do. And you're welcome. And it was also funny to see that so many people in the comments were still referring to this as the flappy hoodie. I think the name kind of stuck, which is, I love it. It's like a private joke between us. And if you don't know why I'm talking about flappy hoodie, you need to go and watch the summer knitting journal that I did during the month of August, and then you will understand. It's a pretty funny story. Anyway, I'm super hot, so I'm gonna take this off immediately because I'm sweating. Oh my god. And I think that's all I wanted to say. Now the thing is, I have this leftover skein of yarn, and the tag is opening up. I don't know what to do with it. It's a full skein, and this is too itchy for a hat. It's absolutely next to skin soft and perfectly fine for everywhere, except for a hat, because I had also a skein left over from the first time I used this yarn in another sweater. It's like a raglan sweater, and I used only 3 skeins of DK weight for a full sweater, oversized sweater. yeah, you just don't really use a lot of this yarn. And I knit a hat with this yarn, and it's too itchy. I just can't wear it. So I have a whole skein in the form of a hat in a different colorway, and this whole skein, but the two of them really don't go together color-wise because the other one is blue. I mean, this one is black heathered with red, and the other one is black heathered with blue, and they really don't go together. So I don't know what to do with the two leftover skeins. And I don't need more cowls and shawlets because I just have enough. I have too much actually, and I cannot wear them all already, so I really don't need to make more. Yeah, anyway, my life in a nutshell. I don't like leftovers. So my other finished object is just as small as this one was big because it's a cute little pair of mittens and they are so sweet. I'm so happy about them. I had a mitten idea in mind and I wanted to knit them up with handspun yarn, but then stuff happened, and then basically I'm doing a collab with a local yarn shop around me, and she provided me with yarn to knit other samples that weren't in handspun so that she could have kits in her shop when the pattern comes out. So this is knit up with gifted yarn, so it's Drops Fiesta in this cute pink colorway, held up with Drops alpaca silk, brushed alpaca silk, and together they make this super cute, like of rainbow pastel color. I'm just so in love. And there are going to be a ton of different options for the mittens. So this is the worsted Aran weight option in one color and in ribbing. So if I try them on, you're going to be able to see what's the special thing about them. The special thing is the way the shaping on the palm is made and then continues into the rest of the hand. So as you can see here, you have a continuous line of shaping. Oh, it's so aesthetically pleasing. I just love it so much. Yeah, it goes here and then it goes around the thumb and it continues here on the back of the hand. So here you have increases because you need more fabric to make room for the thumb. But here you don't need more fabric because the hand is straight. So you have decreases on the other side. Yeah, here. So decreases here. No, decreases here, increases here. So you have this continuous, will it be easier to show on the other hand? So here, this continuous line that runs all the way around here and that ends up here. And it's so cute. It's super easy, but yeah, I just love it. And the funny thing is that there is actually no right hand or left hand, and you can totally wear them the other way around if you want to have the shaping detail on the back of the hand, which I find is a little bit less aesthetically pleasing, but why not? And then you have this thing on the palm. You do whatever. So this is the heavyweight version, and my headspun is in this heavyweight version. However, this is ribbing, and I want to have also a version in half brioche. So this is how it's going to look like. This is just the swatch, of course. So this is the right side with the long stitches, and then on the wrong side you have this shorter thing. Sometimes this is the right side, you can go the other way around, whatever, but for me this is going to be the right side. And I have cast on the other version. So this is what it looks like. So you still have the ribbing on the bottom, and then you switch to the half brioche, half fisherman rib, whatever you want to call it. And then you do the increases here on the palm. And I'm just at the separation between the thumb and the fingers, but I just stopped because I'm not exactly sure of the stitch counts. And I needed some brain space to go past this point, and I don't have brain space available right now, so I just stopped. Yeah, so this is knit on the same needles as this one, these ones, which is 4 millimeters. So those are the two options, heavyweight, ribbing, or half fisherman's rib. And then I'm gonna have also, this is a smooth transition into my works in progress. I mean, there was already a work in progress there, but my other work in progress is the DK weight version. So this is knit on 3 millimeter needles, and this is the ribbing version. It's not very far yet, but let me show you the swatch, because this one is gonna be in 2 colors and ribbing. So there's gonna be ribbing, I mean, each version is going to have DK and iron roasted. And then there's going to be one color or two color, and then ribbing or half brioche. And then you can mix and match how you want. So I have a lot of samples to make. But yeah, this is the two color DK weight ribbing version that I started up. And the yarn was also gifted. This is Loch Lomond by BC Yarn. And I just love this so much. I've been wanting to try this yarn out since forever. And it's amazing. It's awesome. It's very soft. I mean, I have no idea if it's next to skin soft. Maybe. I don't know. It's very textured. It's very rustic, but I don't know if it's itchy. I can do the test where I put the thing here under my garment, and then we're gonna see in 10 minutes if it's itchy or not. Live action. Yeah, I'm working up on all of these samples, and I'm super excited. I mean, I had the vision in my head, and I knew it was going to be cute, but this is like exceeding all my expectations. It's just so pretty, I think. Oh, I'm so pleased. And they are so easy to do. It was so fast. I think one mitten took like, I mean, it's difficult to say because I had to rip back very often to do the shaping correctly around the thumb. But if I don't rip back, maybe in this yarn weight, it's like 2 hours. Yeah, it's super fast. Big needles, big yarn. It's really an amazing project. And yeah, so there's gonna be kits at the shop, at Douce Broderie shop, and it's gonna be available in French and in English, and it should come out on the 1st of December. Yes, and the test call is gonna happen mid-October. So I really need to get going on this because I still need to send it to take edit. But we're getting there. All right, let's talk about my next work in progress, which is also related to the shop I just mentioned, because this yarn was also gifted to the shop because this is a beginner sweater. It's like the most basic raglan ever. I'm gonna give a workshop for knitting your first sweater at the shop, Douce Broderie, in October, I think, yeah. And I'm just knitting out the sample that we're gonna learn to make during the workshop. Now, if you remembered, in the last episode I mentioned we were going to use a pattern by Drops, a free pattern by Drops, which was the cranberry kiss sweater or something. And it's not happening because the pattern is, yeah, I cast on for the neckline and it's supposed to be a folded over neck. Sandy, which is the owner of the shop, she cast on before me and she was like, if they are beginner knitter, nobody is going to finish the 12 centimeter of ribbing during the 4 hours of the course. They are too slow, so nobody's going to get to the raglan increases during the course, which is a shame because it's kind of the point. It's that I'm there to teach people how to do the short rows in the neckline and how to set up the raglan increases and all of that. So we decided to swap the neckline, the folded over neckline, for a simple. So that's what I did. I just cast on and then I knit in 2x2 ribbing and then I started the raglan. I did the short rows and then I started the raglan. And then I realized the short rows were kind of not good. I mean, to my standard, they were pretty crappy, in my opinion. Because if you want a really good short row shaping around the neckline of I was wondering what was touching my arm. On a raglan, you need two different kinds of short rows. You need some short rows that go all the way to the front to do a little bit of a dip for the front neck, to make a little bit of room down here. And you also need short rows that end on the shoulders so that the raglan on the front is shorter than the one on the back. Because when you, like if the beginning of round is in the back and then you stop the short rows here, you only increase on the back, on the raglan lines on the back and not on the front, which means you're going to have more length on the back than on the front, which is how you raise the back neck or lower the front neck, depending on how you look at it. Because if all the raglan lines go only to the front, it doesn't make a difference in this direction. You can only make a little bit of a V because you don't have fabric there. But the best way to do it is to have the longer raglan line on the back compared to the front. So I rewrote all the short rows so that they would fit like this, which means I also had to change the stitch count from when you cast on, because then you don't cast on the same amount of stitches on the back and on the front, because you don't increase the same thing on the back and on the front. And then I realized my row gauge was different, and then Sandy told me her row gauge was also different because we are not using the yarn that's recommended in the pattern. You're supposed to have, I think, 2 strands or maybe 1 strand. of this brushed alpaca silk, and we are using drops air. So the row gauge was completely different, which is very problematic for a raglan, because if this line is not long enough, then it doesn't fit. So I also had to change the numbers for the length, and I also had to change the shaping for the sleeves, because again, if the row gauge is different, you can't do the same shaping, otherwise the sleeve is going to be too short. And then when I was there, I steam blocked it, and I realized the gauge of the ribbing was way too tight, because you were supposed to use like 5mm needles for the body, so US 8, and 3.5mm for the ribbing, because you're using something super fluffy and airy as this, so it makes sense to go down so many needle sizes. But since we were using something a bit more, with a bit more body to it, we couldn't go this much lower, because I thought the ribbing was way too dense and it didn't feel nice, and yeah, it just wasn't good. So I did some surgery and I cut off the ribbing, and I started over on 4mm needles instead of 3.5. And now the ribbing is a lot more like nicer to wear. It's not too dense, but it means that it changed the gauge of this and also the gauge of the cuff and the body, because in the original pattern you're supposed to increase stitches before you start the cuff, and I was like, that's too complicated. So changing the gauge of the ribbing eliminated this step. So all in all, the pattern I had to write up is completely different from the original drops pattern, and also the instructions of the drops pattern were impossible to follow for a beginner. Basically, if you are like an experienced knitter, you know what you're supposed to do, but if you have never knit a sweater before and you try to use the instructions from this pattern, like, impossible. It's just too cryptic, there is not enough instructions and guidance, and it just says like, put the sleeve stitches on hold and cast on at the underarms, and if you have never done that, you're like, what? So I rewrote everything with a lot more indications, so yeah, there is not a single sentence that's the same from the original drops pattern to my own version. So I'm just going to make my own design. I'm going to have to find a name. It's probably going to called Sweet Sweater, because the name of the shop is Douce Broderie, and douce is kind of a mix between soft and sweet. And Sweet Sweater is a fun alliteration to say, and it's very sweet, like soft, because it drops air. So I just thought it could be funny. I'm not 100% sold on the name, but I think it's going to be that. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going to release it as a free pattern on my Ravelry. Maybe. But if I do that, I'm going to have to add sizes, because it's not size inclusive for now. So I will have to see when I have the time for that. But yeah, whatever. So this, I made good progress. I also had to do surgery on the sleeve, because when I knit it, I underestimated how much different my row gauge was, and I just knit the sleeve too short. So I had to cut off here the sleeve, and then I added like 20 rows, and then I grafted it back together, and it's completely seamless. And this is not wet blocked, I only steam blocked it. So, and I think that's it. I just started the ribbing on the bottom. I just did like 2 rounds, and I have 1 sleeve left to go, and then it's gonna be done. And the funny thing is that my boyfriend saw this, so yeah, I decided to upgrade his name to Mr. Tinks, because he deserves it. He's just so cute with everything knitwear. He's just so cute. So Mr. Tinks saw this, and he kept on like stroking it and petting it. He was like, "It's so soft, it's so nice, and the color is gorgeous, and the shape of this is incredible. This is my favorite sweater you have knit." And I'm like, what? This is the most basic sweater ever, the least amount of effort, and it's your favorite? And he's like, yeah, I think if this was my size, I would wear it. I love the color. Whoa! Yeah. So yeah, apparently Mr. Tinks wants to wear this kind of very cute and girly lavender pink, which just goes to show how amazing of a man he is. I love him. So yeah, it was just too funny. Actually, the real thing is that lately, every time I'm wearing a sweater, he looks at me and he's like, "This is my favorite sweater you have knit. If this was my size, I would wear it." And he says this every time I wear a sweater, and I'm kind of starting to get the hint that he just wants me to knit him a sweater. He's just asking me in the cutest way ever. But I think he really, really loves it. So maybe one day we're gonna have matching sweaters. I don't know. But he's super cute. Anyway, so I don't think it's particularly itchy. I can feel it, definitely more here than everywhere else, but I don't think it's itchy. I'm also super hot. If I press on it, it's a little bit itchy. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it would be fine for a cardigan that's not like against my body with positive ease. I guess it would be fine, so that's good. Speaking of the mittens, I actually have a name ID that someone suggested in the comments, because I just didn't have any particular idea for the name of these guys, and someone commented that I could call them the Gecko Mittens. I don't know what they had in mind and why they suggested it, other than it's cute and that I have a gecko. But I think it would be cute because it kind of like wraps up around your hand, which is exactly what my gecko does. Whenever I have it on my hand, his tail just kind of wraps around and he's just like curling around every surface. And he does kind of look like this when I have it on. So I think it's actually kind of fitting and I like the name. So unless I have a genius ID that pops up before the pattern goes to test knit, for now the working name is Gecko Mittens and I find it quite cute. So thanks for the suggestion. And that's it. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is the half-finished object. Wait, let me drink a bit of tea. It's a half-finished object because it's a pair of socks, except I only have one sock. So this is just a very random vanilla sock, nothing special. I mean, that's not true. There is one thing special, but more on that later. And I knit this again using yarn that was gifted to me by the shop Douce Broderie, because it's also gonna be a collab with them, because I am gonna teach a workshop on knitting your first pair of socks at the shop in December. So she provided me with the yarn to knit up a sample, and it's also Drops Fiesta, so same yarn as with the mittens, except I'm not holding a brushed alpaca with it. So it's a DK weight sock, and I used a little bit less than the whole 50-gram ball, but I made them extra long in the leg. I really wanted them to be super long because if you know, you know. I need them to be long. So I knit this one up last weekend because I gave myself the challenge to knit up a whole sock during my weekend trip. We left on Friday morning and we came back on Monday afternoon. And I wanted to see if I could knit a whole sock during the trip. And spoiler alert, it was super easy. And I even had the time to knit 2 sleeves and the button bands on the Shady Hoodie. So yeah, it was super easy, but whatever. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And I knew a DK weight sock would be fast, but I underestimated how fast it went. Like every single step was just like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah, it was just super fast, except the foot. The foot took a little bit longer, but yeah. So it's the most basic sock. So I cast on, I think like 48 stitches, and then I need 2x2 ribbing for like 15 rounds or something, and then I just knit straight in stockinette. I did a short row heel, the most basic short row heel ever, not the fish lips kiss heel or the shadow wrap heel or whatever, just a short row heel, German short rows. And then I did the foot straight, and then I did decreases for the toe, 2 sets on each side. And the one different thing I did is that for the heel, I have a very, very high arch, like really massively high. Like you can tell here, this is super mega deep compared to my ankle and my foot. And by the way, those socks are super fun because it's actually, if I fold, can you see? It's like a footballer, and if I fold here the top, it's like a cap on the head of the footballer. Yeah, so my arches are super high, and if I just do a normal short row heel, it's way too short and the stitches here are completely stretched out. And everyone will tell you that a short row heel doesn't fit high arches, and I'm like, no, that's not true. There is one modification. It's like the easiest modification ever to do, and then it fits perfectly. This fits me perfectly. The stitches here are not stretched out at all. It's like absolute perfect fit around on the whole foot. The modification, you just have to do a gusset before you start the heel. So you do increases here, and then you work the heel, and you can do the heel a little bit deeper because you have more stitches because you added stitches here. And when you're done with the heel, you decrease the stitches. That's all. And then you have a deeper heel, and it fits all kind of feet. It's like in my opinion, it's easier to do like the gusset before and after a short row heel than to modify like the heel flap and gusset, because with the heel flap and gusset, if you're following a pattern, you need to first do the heel flap deeper, and then you need to pick up more stitches, and then you need to do a longer gusset because you need to decrease more stitches. And in my opinion, that's more difficult to keep track of and do than just increase stitches, do more short rows, decrease stitches. Short row heels are the best. You do whatever you want, okay? Yeah, so I wanted to increase 6 stitches, but since I was on the go and when I was doing those increases, I was watching a guy climbing, because it was a climbing trip. My weekend trip was a climbing trip, and I was watching a guy climbing on a 8A route, so pretty difficult, and I was like watching him while I was knitting, and I just missed an increase. So I only have 5 more stitches instead of 6, which means my short row heel is a bit offset, but whatever, you cannot see it. So I only decreased 5 stitches there, and the fit is perfect. So I'm definitely gonna add that to the pattern and teach people how to do this modification when they learn how to knit those socks. And that's it. So now I just have to do the second sock, but the workshop is in December, or I think it starts end of November. So I have like 2 months to knit a sock, and that took like 4 hours. So yeah, it's not gonna be for right now, but that was fun. And regarding the workshops, you can, if you are local to me, which most of you are not, but I guess for the 4 people that are local to me and that are watching this, I guess you are probably not beginner knitters, but if you know people around you that are and are interested in learning how to knit a sweater or a pair of socks, definitely send them on the website of the shop so that they can sign up for the workshops. And there will be kits, so you buy like the, how do you say that? The pass, the entry to the workshop. Don't know how you call that. And you get the yarn, and if you need it, you get also the needles, the stitch holders, the markers, the darning needle, everything is in the kit if you don't have that. So yeah, there are different options. And yeah, that's it. We have still spots available for both the sweater and the socks. It's gonna be awesome. Oh yeah, just a fun fact about the sock. I started to knit them on small circulars here on the cuff, because whenever I knit socks, I usually do fingering weight socks. I hardly ever do DK, but when I do fingering weight socks, I use small shorties. Can I have some here? Sorry. Where are they? I use those, the shorties here. Those are my favorite to knit on socks in fingering weight. So I assumed if I knit socks in DK weight, I would want the same thing, but those are knit on 3mm needles, and I only have the shorties until 2.75mm. But I have the set here where you can mix and match the small cords like this, very small cords with different needle tips, which I did. So those are small circulars with 3mm tips. But if I show you the fixed small circulars and the ones I did with the interchangeable set, you can see that the cable from the interchangeable set, so the one on the bottom, is a lot thinner and flimsier, and also the join here on the needle. So the top one is the 2.75 and this one is the, I mean, you can see it's floppy, is the 3mm, and there is kind of this angle here. So this is a lot less smooth to knit on than this one. So this one is thinner, of course, but even if this was a 1/4 of a millimeter bigger, it wouldn't have this big of a thing here. So it was a bit more difficult to pass the stitches on the needle here, and also the cable is super flimsy compared to this one. And such a flimsy cable with a thicker yarn like this, it was just super difficult to hold, and it was just, the stitches were just going everywhere except on the needle because I had to push them on, and I was super tight and tense because it was mega flimsy and I was just trying to compensate by holding it very tight. And my gauge was like so tight. And I can actually feel it on the beginning here. This is almost zero stretch. And then I switched to DPNs, which I usually don't use, but because mostly I don't have a lot of pair of DPNs, but I happened to have a pair of DPNs in 3mm, which is a mistake because I wanted to buy 2.5mm, but I bought US 2.5, and US 2.5 are 3mm. So I mistakenly have a set of 3mm DPNs, which is perfect because this is the needle size I needed for this. So I switched from small circulars to DPNs, and it changed my life. It was so much easier to knit, it changed the knitting experience completely. I was hating it at the beginning here on the small circulars, and then I was absolutely loving it and flying through it. I absolutely adore my small circulars fixed, those, but only for fingering weight. Or I just need to buy a pair of those in 3mm that are fixed. That would be nice. But anyway, that was a fun fact. And I can still put them on, but it's very difficult to pass the heel in this little section because this is tighter than the rest, but it's okay. I can still fit in them, so I don't need to start over. But yeah, the second sock is going to be a lot easier to put on. Alright, that's all about the knitting. I have one thing I wanted to mention since forever, but I just keep on forgetting. So now, finally, I'm there to tell you about the Skeeter Skirt knit-along that's been happening since 3 to 4 months. I don't even remember when it started, but I think it was at the end of the spring. And yeah, you didn't know about it, but I am currently hosting a knit-along, but I just completely forget about it, and I never mentioned it because it's not up there in my mind. So that makes me kind of the worst knit-along hoster ever. But yeah, it's it's ending on the 4th of October, which is like in 1 week or 10 days. If you want to participate, don't forget to use the hashtag Skeeter Skirt KAL on Instagram, and I will be drawing prizes along the people who use the hashtag. So also tag me in the picture, please, because I don't see all the hashtags and I don't see every time I get tagged. So really do both. So on the 4th of October, I will be drawing winners. I don't remember how much I said. Maybe it was 5, I think. But since I have never talked about it, I don't think there are a lot of entries. So if you really want to win something, now is the time. Just cast on a skirt and tag me and you'll probably win a prize. I think the problem is that I am not participating in the knit-along because I am not knitting on a skirt right now. Skeeter Skirt is the first pattern I ever published last year, by the way. And yeah, since I'm not knitting on it, I'm not participating, I just don't remember it's there. And there is a group chat that someone else is hosting because actually the idea from the knit-along came from a lovely viewer and follower of mine. She's very sweet, and she just said she wanted to know if she could have other people to knit the skirt with because it's a very long knit. There was a lot of stitches, and yeah, it's a skirt. And I was like, yeah, of course, we can do a knit-along together. So she's hosting the Instagram group chat, but I'm not there because I'm not a fan of Instagram group chats. And yeah, since I'm not knitting on the skirt, it wasn't necessary for me to be there. So I'm just not into it at all, which is why I totally forgot. But I'm still gonna draw prizes because I told people I would do it, so I am gonna do it. So yeah, that's coming on the 4th of October. Speaking of anniversaries, it was actually my birthday on Monday, so 4 days ago, on 22nd of September. I turned 31. Yay! And that was when I came back from holiday. I didn't do anything particular, neither on Instagram or in the life, because I was coming home from the weekend trip and we were on the road. And here in the place where I live, it happened to be public holiday. Everything was closed. No restaurants, nothing, everything was closed, so we couldn't really do anything. And I also didn't do any, like a lot of designers usually do sales on the day of their birthday, but my birthday kind of coincides with the anniversary of my designing knitwear business. Because as I mentioned, I published my first pattern on the 4th of October, which is like 10 days after my birthday. And in my head, it makes more sense to do a pattern sale on the anniversary of the knitwear design thing than on my birthday. It just feels more related for me. So all of that to say, I am gonna have a big sale happening on the 4th of October, on the day the knit-along ends. And if you wanted to buy a pattern from me, wait until the 4th so that you can have a discount. I don't know yet what I'm gonna do. It's gonna happen on that day, and I think it's a Saturday. Yes. And I think that's it for the knitting. So in my life, what did happen? Yeah, I went on a holiday. I went climbing in a very, very, very famous climbing crag, which is called Seus, which is a pretty weird name. It's in France, and it's like a worldwide known spot because it's on top of a mountain, and the mountain is in the shape of a... It's round, actually. It's like a volcano, but in reverse. It's like a round piece of rock that just sticks out like this. And you can climb on the whole side of it. So it's like absolutely huge, it's gigantic, and it's very high compared to the rest of the area. So you have a beautiful view on everything that's around. It's really a gorgeous place. And I had never been there because there are a lot of other very famous spots around, and I just never got there. I went to other climbing crags around, but not this one. So I went there for the first time. It was amazing, and a lot of people say that the hike to get there is very hard, and it is. Especially, I mean, if you don't have any bag and nothing, and you just walk up there with a bottle of water and your phone, it's perfectly fine. But when you have to bring your whole climbing gear, like the rope, the quick draws, the harness, and everything, that's super, super heavy. So fortunately, my boyfriend, so Mr. Tinks, is very strong, so he had like a 25 kilos backpack, and I just had maybe 15 kilos backpack, which is already super heavy, but yeah, I'm so glad he was here to hold the heavy stuff for me. And yeah, that's when the hike is really, really difficult. So I loved it, I really loved it. I love the climbing, I love the view up there, but I think there are other places that are just as beautiful and not as hard to get to that I would prefer to go to. So I don't think there's a lot of Seus again in my future. But it was fine. It was a nice experience, and I'm super happy we got there. And since it's the very end of the season to climb there, because you cannot go in the winter because it's too cold in the mountain and there is snow and you cannot get there. Yeah, it was the end of the season, though there was a lot less people than in the dead of summer, so that was nice also. So yeah, I had a great time, and it was my birthday, it was fun. We went to the restaurant with my family. My dad is doing great. He learned to get up and down stairs on his butt because he cannot use his legs because his leg is broken. And I'm gonna go there next weekend because my mom is going out on a trip and she cannot take care of my dad anymore because she won't be there. So I'm gonna go live at my parents' house for a few days to take care of my dad. And yeah, that's what's coming up in my life. So I think that's it. I think I didn't forget anything. I hope you enjoyed everything I talked about. I'm mega excited about the mittens. I want to get back to work on it right away because they are just so cute. And it's just such a quick knit, so satisfying. So yeah, I'm gonna go eat because I'm hungry. I'm gonna edit the video and start working on the mittens again so that I can hopefully have the test call in a few weeks. Ooh, it's gonna be awesome. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments, for your support, for your likes, for your whatever, everything. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any filter content from me. Next week, I'm gonna have my favorite video ever. I mean, not ever, my favorite kind of video to film, which is the knitting plans, the seasonal knitting plans. So I'm gonna film the fall knitting plans. I'm gonna have a stash update. It's gonna be very satisfying and I just love these videos. So don't miss out on that because it's gonna be awesome. So thank you for watching again. I love you. Happy knitting. Bye.